Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. Thanks for joining me on the Imagine Crafts YouTube channel today. So my main focus in this video is going to be the Memento Ink Line, and I want to share with you some of the amazing things that these inks can do. I'm going to demonstrate a few techniques, talk some about things you can't do with the inks, how different paper is going to give you different results. Also, I want to share with you how a few other inks paired with the Memento line can create some amazing projects and let you stretch the use of your supplies. About 11 years ago, I started my journey in handmade cards. My first ink pad was the Memento Tuxedo Black ink for the simple reason that it's alcohol marker friendly. Now, I came onto the scene right about the time that Copic markers were becoming all the rage, and you couldn't carry on a conversation about a Copic marker without hearing Memento Tuxedo Black ink or Rich Cocoa ink. And it's true, these inks are amazing for alcohol markers, but I believe, and this is solely my opinion, the inks became known as the alcohol marker friendly ink, and all the other wonderful qualities got lost in the shuffle. So I'm hoping to shed some light on some of those wonderful qualities, and not so much that they're just alcohol marker friendly. So these inks come in 36 colors, and I feel like that's a great starting point for a beginner. Now, over the years, I simply filled in some areas with other dye inks, and that's perfectly acceptable. Now, you're going to also find out that not all dye inks are created equal, so you need to keep that in mind. So you see here, each color has a few shades, which are perfect for ink layering. We all know floral layering stamp sets are a hot item in the world of stamping right now. The inks are beautiful, vibrant colors. Some of my favorite colors are the Rosebud, Tangelo, Pear Tart, Dandelion, Teal Zeal. I probably should just say all of them, but anyways. Now, you can purchase these in a large ink pad, in a mini ink pad that is called a dewdrop, and due to its shape, you can also get markers and inkers. Some people call them re-inkers or refills, but it's the same thing. Plus, there are some sprays that will coordinate with these inks, and you can find all of that information on the Imagine website. Don't worry, I'm going to have all that information linked below for you. So, basic knowledge on these inks are they are fade resistant dye ink. It quickly dries on most papers. When dry, stamped impressions are water resistant. It dries on all paper surfaces, including coated and textured paper. It is acid free, fade resistant, water based, fast drying. Because it is a dye ink, it is translucent. So here's a quick look at the inside of the pad. It's a raised felt pad like most dye inks. Now, I prefer the larger ink pad because I like to be able to ink my image up pretty quickly. And because it has that raised felt pad, I found that I can use it to do some really fun techniques, just like I can do with the dewdrops. I'm not going to get into the geeky part of this. I was very curious, so I dug deep to learn more about dye inks in general, and I was going to share that information with you, but I decided that not everybody wants to geek out on ink as I do. However, I want to say if you're curious or if you're a beginner and just want more knowledge on dye inks, please feel free to reach out to me and I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. I am a firm believer, the more we know about our products, the better they serve us, which makes perfect sense, right? So now that we have a little bit of knowledge on them, I want to show you some really fun techniques that you can do with these inks. Also remember, the techniques that I'm sharing are just a very small part of what you can do with these inks. My one and only alcohol marker tip is for the no line coloring technique that's so popular right now. You can use your Memento Ink Desert Sand to stamp your image and then do the no line coloring technique. So I just stamped my whole image with the desert sand and then colored in with my alcohol markers, and it'll give you the same results. Moving on, this is where I get so happy because this is so fun. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lay down a lot of water on this piece of Arches cold press 140-pound paper. Once I have this laid down, I'm going to bring in some rosebud and also some of the dandelion ink, and we're going to create a watercolor background. Now you're going to notice on the first layer of ink we lay down, it's a little bit lighter. You still get a nice vibrant color, but if you want to really make that color pop, let that dry and then come back in with some more ink, and it's really going to brighten that ink up. This is one of my favorite things to do with this ink. A lot of people don't even know you can do this. Okay, so next technique, I'm going to show you how to do a stamped faux watercolor. So I just have a solid little circle there on my stamping tool, and I'm going to go ahead and lay a piece of paper down in there. I'm going to add some ink to this, and then I'm just going to put some water on it and close the lid. You're going to see the water playing around on the paper, and then we're going to lift it, and you're going to see how it gives you this really neat watercolor effect. Okay, so we're here watercoloring or doing watercolor techniques, so let's actually watercolor. Now, I stamped my butterfly with VersaFine Clair ink. Now, that's a pigment ink, and it's what I recommend if you want to watercolor with these Memento inks. Remember how I said you could pair some other inks with these inks to stretch your supplies out? Well, this is one of those other inks. The VersaFine Clair ink is going to work perfect. You're not going to have to wait for a dry time. You can just stamp, come right in, and start coloring right away. You can add water to it right away. It's not going to bleed. So this is perfect. You can also use VersaFine ink if that's something that you want to do or you have. By all means, go ahead and stamp it with your VersaFine. So what I did was I just went ahead and laid some ink out on my mat there. I wet the areas that I wanted to come in and color, and I started with the dandelion color, laid a little bit of that down, then I came in with Tangelo, and now I'm even going to come in with a little bit of the ladybug color to add some gorgeous color to this butterfly. Now, I went with these colors just so you could really, they'll stand out against that Warm Breeze ink. Okay, you guys, this next tip is probably something that you don't see being done very often anymore, but I still think that it's something that needs to be shared, especially for beginners. So we're going to go ahead and do two things with this. One, I'm going to show you how you can do a colored embossed image with your Versamark pad. You're going to stamp your image first with the Versamark ink. Then we're going to come in with our Memento ink and stamp directly over that. And that's when it's nice to have a stamp positioning tool, is when you're wanting to do something like this. Go ahead and stamp your colored ink directly over that Versamark. Then you're going to cover it with your clear embossing powder, and then go ahead and heat set it. Now, I know there's easier ways to go about this. VersaFine Clair ink is going to let you heat emboss and color with clear embossing powder with no issues whatsoever. But maybe our beginner doesn't have VersaFine Clair inks yet. Maybe they just went out and purchased a few of the Dewdrop Memento inks and saw a Versamark pad sitting on the counter there and said, oh, hey, what's this? Let me try that too. So this is, even though it's old school, I still think it's a great one to share because it allows you to do multiple things. It allows you to create colored heat embossed images, and you, as you see, you can watercolor right away on this. So I just laid down the Pear Tart ink and Teal Zeal, and I'm just going to go ahead and add some color to this little butterfly's wing here. Now, one thing about the embossed images, when you watercolor, that embossing acts like a dam, and it's going to hold the water in to each section. Now, if you go in there with a cup of water on your image, it's going to overflow, obviously, but there's another tip for you. Okay, we're going to do just some basic stamping now. I want you to see how this ink reacts with just regular 80-pound cover stock paper and 110-pound cover stock. So this is the 80-pound. You're going to see you're going to get a little bit of splotchiness, but that's how dye inks operate. You just have to let them get happy in their situation and they'll smooth themselves out and they'll be fine. So here's the 110-pound. We're going to go ahead and stamp that. There's not much difference when you're stamping on the 80 and 110. You can see that. Now, if you have a stamp that doesn't stamp that great, doesn't give you a good impression, what you can do is take your Versamark ink pad, go ahead, ink that stamp up like I just did there, and then wipe it off with your finger. Then don't clean the stamp off. Go directly over that with your dye ink and stamp it, and you're going to get a much better impression. It kind of primes your stamp is what it does. So if you find you have a stamp that's not giving you a great impression, try that tip of stamping or laying some Versamark ink on your stamp and then laying your dye ink down and stamping. Now, if you're like me and impatient and you don't want to wait for the splotchiness to go away and you have a stamp positioning tool, just go ahead and stamp it again and it's going to take care of it. So you can see the difference in stamping it one time and then stamping it again. You're going to get obviously a much better result. You've laid down 2 layers of ink. So I have some really fun techniques I want to show you using the inks to create some really neat effects when you're stamping on solid images. So what you're going to start with is a light ink. So I'm using Angel Pink, and that's because I'm going to come in with Rosebud. Now, see the edge of that ink pad? You're going to tilt that ink pad down. Now, this is where the dewdrops come in handy. You're going to tilt that ink pad down and swipe it across your stamp. It's going to create these real thin lines. It's going to give you some really fun results with this. I love this technique where you swipe the ink pad across your stamps to create these fun techniques or fun results. So next, you're going to do the same thing, tilting that ink pad. You're going to just write the letter S on your ink on your stamp. That's all I did. I wrote the letter S on there. And look at that marbling. That is pretty cool, right? You should give that a try sometime. You need solid stamped images for this, but it's so much fun. So at the beginning of the video, I talked about we're going to do some stuff with different types of paper. So far, we've used Bristol Smooth, we've used watercolor paper, and we've used 80 and 110-pound cover stock paper. This is glossy paper. So I'm just going to do some ink swiping with my pad directly onto that. Now this is going to dry immediately, and once it's down, you can't do anything with it. It's there. You can see I've taken the watercolor brush to it. It's not moving. It said, nope, I'm done. So you can also come in though with your brayer and add ink to your glossy paper. This is great for people who love like the mixed media look. So here we're going to go ahead and use the brayer and show you the effect you're going to get with the brayer. You're just going to load up your brayer with the ink and then just run it right over that glossy paper. And it gives you a really cool, messy kind of mixed media look. So it's very artsy, but still it's a lot of fun. You could create some really cool cards with this. Okay, so for this next technique, I'm going to break out something that is wildly popular right now, and it's blender brushes. Now, this is glossy paper. I just want to see what kind of reaction I'm going to get with it. I've never used a blender brush with a dye ink on glossy paper, but from what I experienced here, I really like the results. You can go back over this and build the color up some is the results that I got, but I really love the way that looks. Once the ink is down though, like I said on glossy paper, that's it. You can't take it off. So, but this is just another fun way to show you how you can create some unique things with your Memento inks and different kinds of substrates. Okay, so now that we've done some all kinds of things, right? We're going to go ahead and start to wrap this video up. And I am going to finish this off by coming in and showing you a tone-on-tone technique with this. We're going to go right over our background that we created at the very beginning of the video. We did the watercolor technique to create this background. So I'm just coming back in with the rosebud ink, and I'm going to use my blender brush and a stencil and go ahead and add ink right over that. And it's going to give us this gorgeous tone-on-tone effect with this ink. Look how beautiful that is. Okay, here's where I kind of got a little bit too excited because I thought, hey, if you can lay the ink down on glossy paper by itself, surely you can stencil on the glossy paper, and you can, and the results are fantastic. It was so much fun just sitting here testing the inks on different papers, seeing what I was going to, if I was going to create something amazing like this, or if it was just going to be a big fail. Because sometimes, let's face it, it can be a big fail. No biggie. It's paper. Toss it in the trash can, do something else with it, and move on to the next thing. So here I'm just coming in with the Tangelo. I love pink and orange together. So I'm going to lay down that ink. Now, if you're using a blender brush and a stencil, you want to go at it from all directions. So you see me circling to the left, then you see me circle back to the right. That's just so I can make sure I'm getting all the areas covered. But look how beautiful this turned out. I cannot get over. So there it is. It's beautiful on the watercolor background, but it's stunning on that glossy paper. So there's a look at all the things that we did. And I really appreciate you joining me. I hope you'll leave any questions or comments below, and I hope you have an amazing day.